Ας περάσουμε στο επόμενο θέμα, που παρουσιάζει την εκδήλωση που διοργάνωσε το Πολιτιστικό Τμήμα της Κυπριακής Υπάτης Αρμοστείας για την προώθηση της ιστορίας και πολιτισμού της Κύπρου στο Ηνωμένο Βασίλειο. Η Κυπριακή Υπατη Αρμοστεία υποστηρίζει πρωτοβουλίες και εκδηλώσεις που δημιουργούν συνεργασίες με πολιτιστικούς και εκπαιδευτικούς φορείς και πανεπιστήμια. Πρωταρχικός στόχος είναι να εμπλέξουν την κυπριακή κοινότητα και το ευρύτερο κοινό σε ένα δυναμικό πολιτιστικό διάλογο. Εδώ να αναφέρουμε ότι η αίθουσα στο οίκημα της Πρεσβείας ήταν κατάμεστη από προσωπικότητες αλλά και πολλούς ομογενείς. Εμείς πρώτα θα παρακολουθήσουμε το καλωσόρισμα από τον Πολιτιστικό Σύμβουλο της Κυπριακής Υπάτης Αρμοστείας, κ. Αχιλλέα Χατζηκυριάκου, ο οποίος ήταν και υπεύθυνος της διοργάνωσης.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, on behalf of everyone at the High Commission, welcome. My name is Αχιλλέας Χατζηκυριάκου. I'm the cultural counselor. We are delighted to see a full crowd tonight, and we are looking forward to tonight's very interesting lecture from Professor Kassianidou. I will leave the rest to my High Commissioner for his own welcoming remarks, but before doing so and to cross out logistics and housekeeping out of our schedule, please note that we don't expect any fire alarms today, so if you hear any alarm going off, please head to the nearest emergency exit. There is one behind this door, and the other one is the main entrance from where you came in. So no fire alarms for today, and hopefully we won't hear anything. Please switch off your mobile phones or use the flight mode or the vibrating mode just to don't disturb tonight's lecture. Once again, welcome. Thank you very much for keep joining us in our initiatives for this year.
Στη συνέχεια στο βήμα ανέβηκε ο Υπατος Αρμοστής της Κυπριακής Δημοκρατίας στην Μεγάλη Βρετανία, κ. Ευριπίδης Ευρυβιάδης, ο οποίος συνεχάρει τους συντελεστές για την άψογη διοργάνωση και όπως ανέφερε όλες οι διεργασίες ήταν υπό την αιγίδα του. Ο κ. Ευριβιάδης έκανε μια σύντομη αναφορά από την εποχή του χαλκού στην Κύπρο μέχρι και σήμερα, που έχουν βρεθεί υδατάνθρακες στα χωρικά ύδατα της Κύπρου, πόσο σημαντική είναι η Μεγαλόνισσος, όχι μόνο για το γεωπολιτικό της περιβάλλον, αλλά και για τους πλούσιους φυσικούς σπόρους που διαθέτει. Επίσης, ο κύριος Ευριβιάδης αναφέρθηκε στη συνεργασία του Πανεπιστημίου Κύπρου, του γνωστού Πανεπιστημίου του Λονδίνου UCL και των ανθρώπων της Κυπριακής Πρεσβείας στο Λονδίνο, που σκοπό έχουν την προώθηση της πολιτιστικής κληρονομιάς της Κύπρου στη Μεγάλη Βρετανία. Ας παρακολουθήσουμε ένα απόσπασμα από την ομιλία του κύριου Ευριβιάδη.
It's a great pleasure to welcome each and every one of you here to the premises of the Cyprus High Commission in the United Kingdom, what we call the Cyprus home here in London, because as I said before, home has a sense of warmth, it's family, whereas High Commission or a house, it's a little bit alien and a little bit foreign and a little bit cold. So a warm welcome to each and every one of you. Many people that I know from the community, it's a great pleasure to have you. The distinguished colleague from the Greek Embassy, the Deputy, thank you for coming. And of course, to welcome those that have not came here before. A primary mission, of course, of the High Commission here is to have a multi-layered and a multi-faceted activity in diplomacy, which also naturally includes archaeology, also naturally includes the culture and the history of Cyprus. And today's event is a case in point. We would like you to be more aware of our rich, fascinating, 10 millennia-year-old archaeology. I am most delighted that this event of our cultural section is a synergy with the University of Cyprus and the University of College London. Our co-hosts, the UCL, Institute of Archaeology, and the Archaeological Research Unit of the University of Cyprus, are two prominent research centers for archaeology and cultural heritage, which have a leading role in the study and documentation of the human past. We do hope, and we are here to, of course, facilitate, that the collaboration between the two institutions will remain strong in a post-Brexit era, without any significant changes occurring in the co-participation of the two research institutions in European projects. The recent success stories of the University of Cyprus in securing highly competitive European grants initiated a new dynamism in research, which we hope will be sustainable in the future. On the other hand, UCL, one of the most prestigious academic institutions worldwide, has been an excellent partner, reinforcing research proposals and strengthening joint ventures for cutting-edge research. I strongly believe that Cyprus, strategically located in the Eastern Mediterranean and at the crossroads of three continents, has a prominent role to play as a newly emerging, may I say, research hub, at least acting as a facilitator and as a stepping stone among Middle East, North Africa, and Southern Europe. Tonight's lecture will focus on the archaeology of Cyprus through the prism of copper, its exploitation, trade, and socio-political significance from the 3rd millennium BC to the 7th century AD and until the 20th century. If we acquire a more diachronic perspective, we will soon realize that the research outcomes presented tonight, apart from informing our understanding of the past, can also provide valuable insights into the present power games in the Levant, in the Eastern Mediterranean. Many have compared the economic significance of Cyprus's copper ore deposits during the Bronze Age to today's quest for hydrocarbons and natural gas. However, while we're still awaiting to see the new prospects of the island's hydrocarbon resources, despite the recent challenges, to put it mildly, that our biggest neighbor, Turkey, is causing by challenging all forms of legality. You know, when you don't have a legal leg to stand on, what do? You exercise gunboat diplomacy and yes, bullying. We hope that the situation will diffuse itself, but you know, the president, under his directions, we're taking all actions possible so that the drilling can go on. At any rate, while we're waiting to see the new prospects of the island's hydrocarbon resources, there is no doubt about the key role that the copper has played in the past, both for the economy of the island and its interaction with the Eastern Mediterranean and beyond. It was the oil of the period. And there is no better person to guide us in this journey back in time than Professor Vasiliki Kassianidou, the director of the Archaeological Research Unit of the University of Cyprus, and a prominent figure in archaeometallurgical research. Welcome, καλώς ορίσατε. Before passing the floor to Professor Martinon Torres, welcome, it's a great pleasure to have you, of the UCL, who will formally introduce our speaker, please allow me to thank our co-sponsors for tonight's event and wish you all a pleasant, informative, and educational evening. After the lecture, you are naturally invited to enjoy our traditional Cypriot hospitality, an integral part of our identity. Very often we feed ourselves to death, but it is part of our identity. Originating from Xenios Zeus, which apart from academic knowledge includes also delicious Cypriot wine and canapes made with traditional culinary craftsmanship. Last but not least, I also want to pay tribute to Mary, the spouse of our distinguished colleague, Andreas, for her work and her dedication, to welcome each and every one of you. Mrs. Kalispera, Zagathi, I'm sorry. I should have also said Kalispera to you, Mrs. Kalispera. Okay, and to each and every one. I know that once I start going the road of naming persons, I will put my foot in my mouth and forget. Theo, from the lobby from Cyprus, so many others, so please forgive me. Welcome, and I think that's more than I needed to say because, you know, I often say that a short speech moves the hearts and a long speech moves chairs. And I don't want any chairs to be moved. Thank you very much and God bless.
Όπως προαναφέραμε, σε αυτή την εκδήλωση συμμετείχε το γνωστό Αγγλικό Πανεπιστήμιο UCL. Ο καθηγητής Μάρκος Μάρτινον Τόρες από το Ινστιτούτο Αρχαιολογίας του Πανεπιστημίου, αφού συνεχάρει τους διοργανωτές για αυτή την εκδήλωση, αναφέρθηκε στο θέμα και παρουσίασε την κύλια ομιλήτρια καθηγήτρια Βασιλική Κασιανίδου, η οποία ήρθε από το Πανεπιστήμιο Κύπρου. Ας παρακολουθήσουμε την ομιλία του καθηγητή κ. Τόρες.
His Excellency, the High Commissioner, distinguished guests, friends of Cyprus, friends of archaeology, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to start by thanking the Cyprus Home and its cultural section for making this event possible and for inviting me to say a few words on behalf of UCL as I introduce our speaker. For me, and surely for many of us tonight, this event is a celebration of a long-standing and very fertile entanglement between Cyprus and University College London, as is materialized through archaeology and archaeologists. These connections are multiple, diverse, and strong. They cover individuals, projects, and institutions, and thankfully, they don't show any sign of waning. Only a few days ago, we welcomed Dr. Mary Dikomitou to UCL as a distinguished Marie Curie Fellow after spending a few years as a researcher in the University of Cyprus. Just a few months before and going in the opposite direction, Professor Thilo Reren, after serving almost 20 years at UCL as a professor, moved to Cyprus to take a position at the Cyprus Institute as director of the Science and Technology and Archaeology Research Center. The current curator of antiquities at the Department of Antiquities of Cyprus, Dr. Despina Pilides, studied at UCL. The same can be said of Professor Vasos Karageorgis, one of the most illustrious archaeologists in Cyprus, who completed his PhD at UCL before going on to do great things that we all know of. As a matter of fact, and I'll say a few more words about our speaker in just a minute, but it is worth noting that Professor Kassianidou is the most recent in a dynasty of directors of the Archaeological Research Unit at UCY, who were all awarded their doctorates at UCL. Professor Karageorgis, as just mentioned, after him, Dimitrios Michaelides, and most recently, Lina Kassianidou herself. Indeed, every one of the first squad of permanent staff at the Archaeological Research Unit in Cyprus had previously spent some time at UCL. And the list could go on. So tonight is about Cyprus and about UCL and about archaeology, and there is of course no better person to embody this triangle than Professor Lina Kassianidou. And I have to apologize for referring to her as Lina, which is as I've always known Professor Vasiliki Kassianidou. Professor Kassianidou's studies started with a double major in chemistry and archaeology in Pennsylvania, combining two important strengths before coming to UCL for her doctoral studies. Soon after completing her PhD, she returned to Cyprus to take up a lectureship at the Department of Archaeology and Classics in 1994, and she has stayed at these universities since then, deservedly climbing up all of the academic ranks to become, in 2013, a full professor, and in 2015, the director of the Archaeological Research Unit. In addition to her roles as a teacher, mentor, supervisor, and researcher, Professor Kassianidou has been very active in the administration at UCY, serving, among other positions, as the vice chair of the Department of the History of Archaeology, as well as a member of the UCY Senate. She is also a member of the Cyprus National Commission for UNESCO, and between 2014 and 2016, she served as the president of the Board of Trustees of the Cultural Foundation of the Bank of Cyprus. Throughout all of this time, she has also retained very strong links with UCL, which I have personally benefited from, like many of us here tonight. Because Professor Kassianidou has coordinated a very good number of research projects with competitive funding from the Research Promotion Foundation or the European Union. A big highlight among many is, of course, the 4-year project that became very well known through its acronym, Narnia, which is now more famous than the film. This was a multi-million euro international training network involving 9 partners from 6 different countries. Of course, one of those partners was UCL. And this again provided us with plenty of opportunities to exchange ideas and researchers. Narnia was then, and perhaps still is, the single largest project in the field of archaeology ever granted by the European Commission. Professor Kassianidou led that, and she has also led and hosted other European projects, currently 2 Marie Curie individual fellowships. One of them, currently ongoing, is involving Dr. Carmen Ting, who is a UCL graduate. Currently, also, Professor Kassianidou is a member of the University of Cyprus in the consortium of the MedStack project, in which UCL is also participating. This is a very ambitious ongoing initiative that aims at establishing Cyprus as an excellence hub in archaeology and cultural heritage for the whole Eastern Mediterranean region, capitalizing on multidisciplinary research and technological innovation. Professor Kassianidou's research is focused, as we all know, on ancient technology and specifically the production and trade of Cypriot copper. She has also addressed the impact of this industry on the Cypriot historical landscape and environment. This is a topic she has been working on from her early days as an undergraduate student in the US, but of course today she is the undisputable world reference on this subject. She has taken part on numerous field and analytical projects in the field and in the laboratory, and her work has led to numerous academic publications that include 2 edited books, 3 co-authored volumes, and over 50 articles in peer-reviewed journals or book chapters. She's, of course, talking about copper tonight, and copper is an economic resource. It is the oil of the past, but it is also, and importantly, a key component of the island's natural and cultural heritage. It is copper that largely explains the prominence of Cyprus in the broader prehistory of the Mediterranean. We cannot understand the past of Cyprus without reference to copper. But I'll leave that subject to the true expert. My last few words really should be on behalf of UCL to thank Cyprus for sharing with us your outstanding archaeology and your excellent archaeologists.
Στη συνέχεια στο βήμα ανέβηκε η καθηγήτρια Βασιλική Κασιανίδου, διευθύντρια στην Μονάδα Αρχαιολογικής Έρευνας στο τμήμα Ιστορίας και Αρχαιολογίας του Πανεπιστημίου Κύπρου. Το θέμα που ανέπτυξε ήταν στην Κύπρο, όπου ο χαλκός ανακαλύφθηκε για πρώτη φορά. Η κυρία Κασιανίδου έκανε μια υπέροχη παρουσίαση με πολλές διαφάνειες και αναλυτική περιγραφή για τα σημεία αλλά και για τις χρονικές στιγμές που χρησιμοποιήθηκε ο χαλκός στην Κύπρο, τους τρόπους με τους οποίους εμπορεύτηκε ο χαλκός από τα αρχαία χρόνια έως και την εποχή μας. Επίσης, η κυρία Κασιανίδου παρουσίασε τις διαδρομές που ακολούθησε ο χαλκός από την Κύπρο σε ολόκληρη την ευρύτερη περιοχή. Ας παρακολουθήσουμε ένα απόσπασμα από την παρουσίασή της.
Your Excellency, High Commissioner, I would like to thank you and thank the Cultural Councillor, Dr. Αχιλλέα Χατζηκυριάκου, and all the team of the Cyprus High Commission, especially Mr. Andreas Iliadis, who helped organize this event. I would also like to thank Professor Marcos Martinon Torres for his kind introduction, and Professor Todd Whitelow for arranging that the Institute of Archaeology is a co-organizer in this event. The Archaeological Research Unit of the University of Cyprus, together with the Cyprus University of Technology, are, as Marcos has already said, collaborating with the Institute of Archaeology to win some highly competitive funding in the teaming program of H2020, which will enable us to set up this new Eastern Mediterranean Science, Engineering and Technology Center of Excellence for Archaeology and Cultural Heritage. If we manage to get through, we will have 15 million euros from the European Commission plus 15 million euros from the government of Cyprus, but we will know in a year if we manage to get this. So hopefully we will have many more opportunities to co-organize such events together. Before I start, let me just say that it is really a great honor to be here and to be given the opportunity to share with you an important aspect of Cyprus's cultural heritage and history, which sometimes remains forgotten. So let us start our journey. In his famous book entitled Natural History and written in the first and written in the 1st century AD, Pliny the Elder states that copper was discovered in Cyprus and that Guineras, the mythical king of the island, was the one who discovered, among other things, the art of mining. We know today that Pliny's statement is incorrect. Nevertheless, it is significant, as it indicates the importance of Cyprus as a source of copper in antiquity. Even at the time when Rome had under its control so many other copper-producing areas, Cyprus was so important that Pliny assumed that she could have been nothing less but the place where copper was discovered. Pliny also describes the different types of copper alloys available in his time, such as S. Corinthium, the Corinthian bronze, a copper alloy which was more expensive than silver. Pure copper was called S. Cyprium, Cypriot copper. Later on, the Romans abbreviated the name of the metal simply to Cyprium, which then sometime between the 3rd and 4th century AD became cuprum, with the variant coprum, from which are derived all the Western European words for the metal. It is, of course, cuprum that the chemical symbol for the metal, Cu, comes from. In other words, copper is the metal from Cyprus. Modern geological studies have shown that the metal justly takes its Latin name from the island. The mountain range of Troodos, which covers more than a third of the island, includes some of the richest copper ore deposits in the Mediterranean. Even with today's standards, Cyprus is ranked as one of the richest countries in copper per surface area in the world. They are located within the so-called Pillow Lava Formation, which is found around the circumference of the range and is shown here in purple. The copper ore deposits are located relatively close to the surface. They are easy to spot because they are covered with colorful iron oxides, and they are easy to mine. These iron oxides, ochres of yellow and orange and brown ambers, were used from early prehistory until today in pottery production, as well as pigments for wall painting, sculpture, and terracotta figurines. The Troodos mountain range includes many more economically significant mineral deposits, such as chalcanthite, the copper sulfate, which were used for the preparation of medicaments, and were also systematically collected. The Troodos mineral wealth was well known in ancient times, as indicated in a passage from Pseudo-Aristotle. The ancient exploitation of the rich Cypriot copper ore deposits lasted for almost 3 millennia. Recent archaeological evidence clearly shows that the ancient copper industry came to an end sometime in the 7th century AD. The mines were abandoned for more than 1,000 years, and it is not until the beginning of the 20th century that prospectors from the US and Europe became interested in Cypriot copper ore deposits after reading the ancient texts. They were able to locate the deposits by looking for ancient slag. This is the waste product from the smelting process, and here you see a whole mountain of it. This is certainly why, apart from towns, villages, roads, and water springs, slag heaps are noted in the first map, which was based on a full triangulated survey of the island of Cyprus and was published in 1882. This was produced by Lord Kitchener for the Foreign Office when the administration of the island of Cyprus was given to the British Empire in 1878. The impressive slag heaps, remnants of the copper industry, are found all over the foothills of the Troodos. It has been estimated that there are 4 million tons of copper slag in 40 different locations spread over the periphery of the Troodos Mountains. The copper mines were worked in antiquity and then again in the 20th century after a gap of more than 1,000 years. The modern industry, however, shipped the ore abroad. There were no smelting furnaces, and thus slag was never produced on the island in the 20th century. This means that all 4 million tons of slag recorded in the foothills of the Troodos had been produced in ancient times. As already in the Bronze Age, so indeed in modern times, the mining industry soon became one of the main sources of income for the island. from the time modern mining operations started in the earlier part of the 20th century, and for a period of 40 years, 50% of the island's exports were products of the mining industry. In the same period, 15 to 25% of all the taxes collected and 50 to 70% of income tax derived from the mining industry. In antiquity, the Troodos Range was equally important for its forests, which provided fuel for the energy-demanding copper industry. Wood was the only source of fuel available for the production of copper, and Troodos was able to sustain the forests and, by extent, the copper industry for millennia. The forests were, of course, an important source of timber for shipbuilding, for which Cyprus was very well known in antiquity. Writing in the 4th century AD, Ammianus Marcellinus declared with admiration that the island could build and send to sea a ship fully equipped from stem to stern entirely of its own resources. Cyprus's natural wealth is eloquently described by Strabo, who was writing in the 1st century BC. He states, and I quote, "In fertility, Cyprus is not inferior to any of the islands, for it produces both good wine and good oil, and also a sufficient supply of grain for its own use. And at Damassos, there are abundant mines of copper, in which is found chalcanthite and also the rust of copper, which latter is useful for its medicinal properties." Strabo also offers a detailed description of the coast of Cyprus, listing the harbors of the island and the distances from these harbors to those on the Anatolian, Syrian, or Egyptian coast. The distances are actually not great, and the Anatolian coast, as well as that of Syria, are visible from the island and vice versa. The first humans to cross the sea were hunter-gatherers who came to exploit the island's resources by the 11th millennium BC. By the 9th millennium BC, the first farmers came to settle, bringing with them their livestock and domesticated cereals and legumes. If one reads books and papers published before the 1990s on the Cypriot Neolithic, one will find references to Cyprus being introvert and isolated because it is an island. But new excavations have not only brought to light sites which were much earlier in date, but also solid evidence for contacts with Anatolia and Syria, which brought exotic materials to the island, such as obsidian and carnelian. The first metal objects appear in Cyprus around 3500 BC in the Chalcolithic period. Considering the wealth of the copper ore deposits of Troodos, this is rather astonishing, especially in comparison to neighboring Anatolia, where native copper is already used from the 8th millennium BC. Equally surprising is the fact that there are less than 25 Chalcolithic copper artifacts known to date, all products of a very simple and primitive technology, which weigh no more than a kilo in total. They were most probably made of native copper. The most recent find is this axe. This was just found 2 years ago in the excavations of the University of Leiden at the site of Chlorakas, Palloures, and this dates to around 2800-2400 BC. It is a very important find as it is the largest and heaviest copper artifact found to date that comes from the Chalcolithic, and it comes from an extraordinary, perhaps ritual deposit. The Chalcolithic period is followed by the Bronze Age. In Cyprus, this transition dates to around 2500 BC, and it comes with great changes in all aspects of Cypriot culture, namely architecture, animal husbandry, and even burial customs. There are also important developments in metallurgy. The early Bronze Age is characterized by a marked increase in metallic artifacts made of arsenical copper, which are deposited as grave goods in significant numbers. This increase in the availability of copper is the result of the development of extractive metallurgy, so the production of metal from the ores. In Cyprus, the ores are sulfidic, and therefore a complicated process for extracting the metal is necessary. This explains why copper production on the island started so late in comparison with other areas. Once the method was mastered, however, Cyprus began to produce and export significant amounts of copper and became a major player in the Mediterranean trading networks. Copper, of course, is a sine qua non for the Bronze Age world. May I remind you that the Bronze Age has been defined as the period during which copper and copper alloys were predominant for all metal products, save those of precious metals. Recent archaeological fieldwork, analytical work, including provenance studies, and philological studies of ancient texts clearly show that developments and changes taking place in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Near East were closely linked to the need to procure copper and tin with which to produce bronze, but also silver and gold. The search for metals acted as an incentive for exploration and for establishing trading networks and systems with those areas that did not have copper or deposits of their own could have access to the metal. Frankel and Webb have long argued that the changes detected on Cyprus in the middle of the third millennium, namely the transition from the Chalcolithic to the Bronze Age, are related to the coming of a group of people who were interested to exploit the rich copper ore deposits of the island. Unfortunately, the earliest phase of the Cypriot copper industry, that dating to the third millennium, is rather elusive. Although copper must have been extracted, production was still not of a scale that could support significant exports, perhaps because of the technological complexity. Things are very different in the second millennium. Indeed, from the beginning of the second millennium, there is increasing archaeological evidence for the production of copper on the island and textual evidence for its export. Written sources suggest that Cyprus, which is called Alashiya in the text of its neighbors, has already started to export copper to the east. Finally, recently published provenance analysis showed the limited use of Cypriot copper at this period in Crete and in Israel. At the same time, Cypriot pottery is found in sites of this period in the Levant, Egypt, and Anatolia. All this indicates that by the Middle Bronze Age, Cyprus was a part of the international trade network of the Eastern Mediterranean. This is clearly why bronze objects become more common on the island. Bronze is the alloy of copper and tin. Copper is locally available, but tin is not, which is why it indicates overseas trade connections. It must have been one of the valuable raw materials the Cypriots received in exchange for copper. The source of tin used in the Eastern Mediterranean is a matter of debate because perhaps with the exception of the Taurus Mountains, there are no known tin deposits in this part of the Old World. Some of the richest deposits are located much further to the east in modern-day Afghanistan and neighboring countries where lapis lazuli is also found. This precious bright blue-colored stone was greatly sought after in the Eastern Mediterranean. A trade network was established which brought lapis lazuli and tin from the east to the Eastern Mediterranean already from the first half of the second millennium. And this is well documented in third millennium texts from a city in Anatolia called Kultepekanesh.
Ολόκληρη την αναλυτική ομιλία θα την παρακολουθήσουμε προσεχώς στην εκπομπή με το φακό του Hellenic TV. Αγαπητοί φίλοι τηλεθεατές, αυτά είχαμε για σας απόψε. Να σας υπενθυμίσουμε ότι για τα σχόλιά σας μπορείτε να επικοινωνείτε μαζί μας τηλεφωνικά στο 020 82 92 7037 ή μέσω της ηλεκτρονικής μας διεύθυνσης info@hellenictv.net. Και μην ξεχνάτε ότι πλέον μπορείτε να μας παρακολουθείτε στο κανάλι 264 στο Freeview, εντελώς δωρεάν, διαδικτυακά, αλλά και από το Rockbox. Μην χάσετε αμέσως μετά την ταινία με τίτλο «Σούλα, έλα ξανά» και ακολουθεί η ταινία «Ο Φαφλατάς». Αύριο Σάββατο στις 7:30 μην χάσετε την εκπομπή «Ανέσπερον φως» που παρουσιάζει και επιμελείται ο πρεσβύτερος Σάββας Δαβίδ Βασιλιάδης. Αμέσως μετά ακολουθεί η εκπομπή με το φακό του Hellenic TV που θα σας παρουσιάσει την ομιλία του Υπουργού Ψηφιακής Πολιτικής στην Ελλάδα, κύριο Νίκο Παπά, στο διάσημο Πανεπιστήμιο Αλεσί. Τίτλος της ομιλίας του ήταν «Fake News, προπαγάνδα και μέσα μαζικής επικοινωνίας στην Ελλάδα». Την Κυριακή μην χάσετε τη νέα μας εκπομπή Conversation with Nadia Themis, η οποία παρουσιάζει προσωπικότητες από την Ομογένεια και ακολουθεί η εκπομπή πρόσωπα με τον Βασίλη Παναγή, που που παρουσιάζει ανθρώπους από τον καλλιτεχνικό, πολιτικό και κοινωνικό χώρο της Ομογένειας και όχι μόνο. Τη Δευτέρα στις 8 μην χάσετε την εκπομπή «Ανάδειξέ το», που επιμελούνται και παρουσιάζουν η Άννα Νικολαίδη και η Ρούλα Σκουρογιάννη με τους συνεργάτες τους. Ακολουθεί η ταινία «Θέλω πίσω το παιδί μου» και αμέσως μετά το ταξίδι της ζωής με την Αγγίλου Πέσκου. Την Τρίτη στις 8 το βράδυ παρακολουθήστε την εκπομπή «Η Ποιητική Ανθολογία» που επιμελείται και παρουσιάζει δημοσιογράφος Σούλα Ορφανίδου. Την Τετάρτη μην χάσετε την εκπομπή με το φακό του Αχιλλέα Χατζηκυριάκου που θα σας παρουσιάσει την σχολική γιορτή με αφορμή τις εθνικές επετείους της 25ης Μαρτίου και 1ης Απριλίου του Ελληνικού Παροικιακού Σχολείου του Αγίου Δημητρίου στο Έντμοντον. Ακολουθεί η ταινία με τίτλο «Πλούσιοι χωρίς λεφτά» και αμέσως μετά η εκπομπή με το φακό του Αχιλλέα Χατζηκυριάκου που θα σας παρουσιάσει την επιμορφωτική ημερίδα που διοργάνωσε το Γραφείο Συντονιστή Εκπαίδευσης της Ελληνικής Πρεσβείας Λονδίνου και ο Συντονιστής Εκπαίδευσης Δ. Γιώργος Κώσιβας. Η συγγήτρια ήταν η δασκάλα καθηγήτρια και κοινωνιολόγος κ. Αντιγόνη Λιμπέρη. Θέμα για δίκτυο, επικοινωνία ή αποκλεισμός. Την Πέμπτη μην χάσετε την εκπομπή Πολιτιστικό ημερολόγιο, μια εκπομπή με πολιτιστικό και ενημερωτικό χαρακτήρα που παρουσιάζει η Σουζάννα Καζάκα στις 8. Μην χάσετε τις εκδηλώσεις των επόμενων ημερών. Στις 19 Απριλίου, ημέρα Πέμπτη, θα πραγματοποιηθεί η διάλεξη του Ελεύθερου Πανεπιστημίου στην Ομογένεια του Λονδίνου. Ομιλήτρια θα είναι η καθηγήτρια του Πανεπιστημίου Κύπρου, κυρία Μαριάννα Κατσογιάννου, και θέμα της «Λεξικά της Κυπριακής Διαλέκτου». Στις 20 Απριλίου, ο πρόεδρος και η διευρυμένη γραμματεία της Εθνικής Κυπριακής Ομοσπονδίας Ηνωμένου Βασιλείου διοργανώνει δείπνο προς τιμήν του Προέδρου της Κυπριακής Δημοκρατίας, κ. Νίκο Αναστασιάδη, στο οίκημα της Αδελφότητας. Την Τρίτη, 24 Απριλίου, θα πραγματοποιηθεί η διάλεξη στα αγγλικά από τον Σερ Βασίλειο Μαρκεζίνη στο Ελληνικό Κέντρο του Λονδίνου και η διάλεξη θα πραγματοποιηθεί στα αγγλικά. Θέμα Myths, History and Art, 12 Essays on the Art of Deception. Διοργανωτής η Μακεδονική Εταιρεία Μεγάλης Βρετανίας. Την Παρασκευή 4 Μαΐου θα πραγματοποιηθεί η συναυλία με τραγούδια του Μάνου Χατζηδάκη και ελληνικούς χορούς του Νίκου Καλκότα στο Hall του Τιμίου Σταυρού και Αρχαγγέλου Μιχαήλ στο Golders Green. Διοργανωτής είναι η κοινότητα του Τιμίου Σταυρού. Πριν κλείσουμε, θα θέλαμε να σε ευχηθούμε για άλλη μια φορά χρόνια πολλά με τις καλύτερες ευχές μας σε όλον τον κόσμο. Ευχαριστούμε που μας παρακολουθήσετε. Μην χάσετε την εκπομπή την επόμενη Παρασκευή Ομογένεια εδώ Λονδίνο στις 8 και 4 το βράδυ. Καλό σας βράδυ και καλή εβδομάδα.